is going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of the Legislative Director, talking about legislative things. Here she is. She's helping to pass bills. She's helping to kill them. She's a jack of all trades. Legislative Director Amber Marr. With her is always, just still hanging out in the background, not the Legislative Director, Jason Thompson. Amber, as always, great to see you. Good to be here with you. Lots happening. We have a special guest off in the wings. We're going to bring on camera here soon. The first, I believe, in-studio guest that we've had in the long, illustrious history of this show. So I know that our dozens of fans are going to be quite excited.
Some seasons are better than others.
This is one of
them. Better?
Yes. Yes. That's what I meant. So since we have a guest, we want to make sure that we have enough time to speak with that guest and talk about what they're here to talk about. Let's dive in, talk about some bills.
I think some people are already anticipating the guest because I said his name last week.
Let's pretend like people don't watch this show.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm sorry. What did you say where we're starting?
What bill are we starting on?
Or did you call out a bill?
Yeah, let's start talking about it. Okay. That's what the people came here
Okay,
for.
yes. Let's get through these first couple so we can bring our
guest that we don't know who it is.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to start off really fast because this is a bill that I have not discussed prior to today. And I just wanted to give everybody an idea as to what we've been working on behind the scenes. Senate Bill 1, which is the Behavioral Health Matters Bill, and it is an expansion of mental health services. We are supportive of this bill. However, there was a lot of discussion around what the Behavioral Health Commission had studied in the past. And I think moving forward, they are going to be looking at talking a lot more about aging Hoosiers and mental health for older adults. And what was great is that we were talking about that, except for the Indiana Behavioral Health Commission did not actually have a representative of an aging Hoosier group or anyone that would be able to help advise these discussions in the future. So we worked with Senator Kreider, and he was so gracious that he did amend the bill to include a representative of a statewide elder advisory group. So that does leave it open. We are going to try to request that is us once this bill makes it through the process, but we were just overall grateful, even if it's not us, that he would put that in there so that we would have representation of our members.
Awesome.
So yes, and again, Senate Bill 1, dealing with mental health and the expansion of services. It also includes the 988 Crisis Hotline Center. I know a lot of people are familiar with that, and the governor did mention that in his State of the State address. So I know a lot of folks are familiar.
Awesome.
But this is a really good
work.
Yes, addition to Senate Bill 1.
Cool.
And so, yes.
What is next?
Next, let's see. We're going to go to Senate Bill 233, which is Vision Zero.
What is Vision Zero?
Yes. So Vision Zero is about looking at all of the factors of a community or a state, which includes drivers, but any other mode of transportation or pedestrian, bicyclist, et cetera, and looking how things can be improved for safety purposes. We obviously are extremely supportive of this. We have supported what we refer to as complete streets, whether it's on a local level or a state level across the entirety of our advocacy work. And this Vision Zero is going to really help look at how Indiana can be a safer state when it comes to everyone moving together in a community.
Yeah, it's looking out for pedestrians, drivers, trying to get to zero fatalities with regards to
which explains
traffic accidents.
The Vision
hence the zero. Also understanding that mistakes are going to happen, but the idea is to just try to prevent those from happening as much as possible.
Yes.
Awesome.
We met with the author, Senator Hunley, and then also testified in committee this week. The bill passed out 8-0.
Nice.
So now it moves to the Senate floor. And what was interesting, during this committee hearing, I shouldn't say this is what was interesting, but it was actually very sad that while we were in the committee, a news statement came up on my phone, and actually there was a hit and run in Kokomo. So this is happening everywhere. It is not just a local issue. It is completely across the state. And I think that it's important that we continue to look at how we can improve.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yep.
Glad that it's moving forward. All right.
And just to make sure, the one thing I wanted to say about that is this task force will report to the interim study committee on roads and transportation. So people will be learning about what this task force is studying and how what the options are that they're suggesting.
Okay.
So a way to keep track.
All right. So what do we want to talk about next? Is it guest time? Is it guest time?
It is
Okay.
guest time.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So good.
You know what? We're just gonna you guys already know who it is. Andy, get over here. Come on. Sneak in here. It's tight quarters.
Right.
We're here at the tiny table
Yeah.
to talk. This is really built for two. But it's good to
I
have
don't
you
even
here.
know if it's built for two. I know, it's so
Yeah.
great.
All right, so
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
introduce yourself.
Yes.
Who the organization you work for, and then we'll start talking about the bills. And you're an expert in a couple of areas that we're gonna let you talk about what's happening. But at first, introduce yourself and who you're representing here today.
Well, thanks, Jason. Thanks, Amber. Thanks, AARP. Hello, my name is Andy Nielsen. I am with the Indiana Community Action Poverty Institute. We are a nonpartisan research advocacy organization that is a program of the Indiana Community Action Association. So statewide organization providing tailored community-based needs and addressing poverty in all 92 Indiana counties. We are coalition members with AARP on a number of coalitions, including Hoosiers for Responsible Lending at the Indiana Assets and Opportunities Network and Hoosier Housing Needs Coalition. So thank you for having me.
So we are thick as thieves, if you will.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So love it. Okay. What is the bill that we're going to talk about first, Amber?
Yes.
That Andy's going to kind of help explain.
Absolutely.
Not that you need any help. It's just good to have somebody else here with some
No.
other expertise.
I say we need help. Sorry, I'll just speak for myself.
No, we're all. I think I've said this on the show before. We're all works in progress.
I'll speak for myself. Yes,
We all
I
need
definitely need help, especially since last week you heard me try to explain House Bill 1547. Hence why Andy is here, because I did not do the greatest job. But well, thank you. You'll see as soon as he starts talking. So Senate Bill 3 was one that Andy and I had worked together with our Assets and Opportunities Network coalition, and that is on the state and local tax review task force. And Andy was so wonderful to be able to testify for us on behalf of that network. And if you will just give a little bit of background as to why we got engaged in this, and then sort of the journey that it has taken.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so Senate Bill 3, as Amber said, would create a task force that would study kind of the financial situation of our state budget.
Yep.
So it does a number of things to try to pay down the long-term pension obligations that the state has been chipping away at for a number of years, but really how the Assets and Opportunities Network and I think our organizations really got involved was that the task force is tasked with with studying the elimination of the personal income tax. And it was also amended in committee to study the elimination of the property tax. And from our perspective, we were hoping that when it was in the commission form, that based on the membership of the commission, that a consumer voice was at the table, especially as it relates to, that's a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Property taxes are bringing a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
Income taxes bringing a lot of revenue. What's the impact going to be on Hoosiers as it relates to services, but also as it relates to revenue replacements like sales taxes, et cetera?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we did throughout the process is we did meet with not only the author, but the chairman of the committee, Senator Holdman. And we did ask if we could have a consumer from the Assets and Opportunities Network placed on the task force. I think his response was, we were one of many groups who have asked to be placed on the task force, and they were really trying to keep it small. I think we had discussed that, besides some legislative members, the only two other groups that were included, and Andy, you might have to help me here.
Yeah,
It was the Indiana Manufacturers Association, and then
Accelerating Indiana's Municipalities, AIM.
which is essentially cities and towns.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was it,
Yeah.
other than some other folks, like I think there was an economist and some other things, but then the legislative individuals. So we said, well, there are two folks that are on it organizations wise, and we really would like to see that expanded. So he said no, because they just needed to keep it very small. Well, as we kind of continue to have conversations with committee members, et cetera, and then touch base with Senator Holdman again, Andy, would you like to tell everybody what they did in committee this week that sort of, I wouldn't say it was necessarily a win, but it definitely was helpful to our cause.
I think based off of our advocacy, our organization's advocacy, we really were able to highlight kind of the slippery slope that was created when you have a few interest groups, right, and not a representation of everyone. And so they removed those two groups, AIM and IMA, Manufacturers Association, so that it will now just be public employees. But we have received but that there could be some subcommittees that are created, which would provide an opportunity for consumer groups to remain engaged on the issue.
And that is where we told Senator Holdman that we will definitely work through to be a part of these conversations. And now everyone is on the same level of trying to get on these subcommittees to participate and not picking any one person out to put on the actual task force. So I think
it makes a lot of sense. So much so that I'm kind of shocked that it happened.
Yeah, and to your point, Amber, though, is like I think ultimately was some better and fairer public policy.
Yes, so, I agree.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Right? We want to, when you're talking about billions upon billions of dollars in revenue that the state relies on, I don't think you necessarily should put one group in front of the other or have greater input than the other. So I think the senator made a good call. And we appreciate his willingness to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, what is next?
Senate Bill 202.
202.
Which
we have talked about this before, haven't we?
Last week, well, because our volunteer legislative team spent the entire day at the State House working on trying to get it a hearing, along with House Bill 1148.
How do we do?
Well, our legislative team did a great job, as we talked about.
Yeah.
I think that what happened this week probably was not what we had hoped would happen.
Okay.
As Andy mentioned, we are both of our organizations are part of the Hoosier Housing Needs Coalition, and we have been working this exceptionally hard, not only through the author, which is Senator Kadora, but also through Chairman Liz Brown's committee, which is Senate Judiciary. And this week, it was a roller coaster ride. It was up and down, up and down. We weren't sure if it was actually going to get a hearing. We weren't sure if there was going to be different types of amendments and what the committee would honor or not honor. What happened is Senate Bill 202 essentially was stripped and an amendment was inserted to just make it a study committee. And then no testimony was taken in committee. So the Legislative Council, as we talk about on previous shows where a study committee will go to at the end of session, they initially will make the decision on what study committees get assigned to the interim, or what topics get assigned during the interim. And this would actually ask the study committee to sort of follow and study the implementation of a rent escrow program, which is what the bill pertain to, a court-ordered escrow program, protections for tenants against negligent out-of-state landlords, habitability and living condition standards for tenants in single and multifamily units, addressing the root causes of housing instability, including evictions and lack of affordable housing. As you can tell, there are a lot of things that we wanted the opportunity to talk about that were included now in this study that would have been discussed if the bill had been able to be heard as is in its original form and if testimony had been allowed. But it is turned into a study committee. That doesn't mean that it will get studied. It will just get put on the list of topics that the Legislative Council will have to choose from in May. So we were We're not happy about it. On Monday, I think we had talked about last week that there was Housing Advocacy Day. That was amazing. We had a lot of speakers, a lot of different people that attended, including most of the individuals in attendance were tenants. And then today, because of the occurrence that happened this week with this turning into a study committee, we held a press conference so that we had the opportunity to actually say the things that we would have been able to say if we had been given a full hearing in the Senate. So that's where we're at on that. Andy, do you have anything? I know that you were there as well.
No, nothing other than it was just very disappointing.
Yeah.
It's been a roller. I mean, as the IGA can be, it was
Yes.
a roller coaster of a week on this issue, and unfortunately did not end how we wanted. So
It did not.
But next steps, keep at it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now just turn our attention to getting that through the Senate and hope that it gets a hearing in the House.
Yep.
And then either way, try to make sure that it gets put on the list for
Yeah.
the interim study committee to make that sure that these issues get discussed.
Yes.
And-
And even though it turned into a study committee, sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
you're fine. You're fine.
It does still allow us to talk about it through the process. So there's just more touches, more conversations, the ability to continue to talk to legislators about what we would like it to be and not what it actually turned into.
Agreed. The press conference today, good turnout. We get some. I think there was even some tenants there as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So that it was a good way to keep on putting the issue out of the forefront because apparently folks still need to learn some more stuff about it.
Oh,
Yes.
I forgot.
What?
We need to give a shout out to our volunteer legislative team member, Tish Biggs.
Oh yes.
Because we used her statement today, or whatever day it is. I always
No, we're recording this on
I
a Thursday.
forget.
You're probably watching it on Friday. Or
Yeah, I'm
Saturday,
sorry, I
whatever.
always
We're
mess that
recording
up.
this on a Thursday. You're fine.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
But yes, Tish was a landlord in Ohio, where Ohio has the court-ordered escrow provision, and she just allowed us to talk about how her tenants never had to use it, but it was there if they needed it, and she took care of what her tenants needed. And this is not anything that should be against a good landlord. Most landlords won't even know, like I said last week, that this will exist, because if you're keeping everything up, great. And if not, tenants have this recourse.
Right.
So I just want to give a huge shout out to her for helping us today and allowing us to use her statement and story for this issue.
Appreciate Tish for that.
Yep.
All right, last thing. Is this the last thing?
Yes.
Wow, this is a robust show, but also done in a very timely manner.
Yeah.
Good work, team, as we dive into
Yes.
what Andy is here to talk about, because he's an expert on this. He is deep in it, as they say.
Yep.
This is what, House Bill 1547.
Yes. And I was very embarrassed last week when I had to talk about this, because I literally have been with Andy when he has discussed this bill, I don't know, like 1,500 times. And I still couldn't talk how he talks about it. So that's why I'm so excited for you to hear from him, for him to talk through the bill. And again, this is House Bill 1547 regarding the finance charges for supervised loans. I think last week, Jason also mentioned it was sort of like a payday adjacent. At least that's how he refers to it.
Refer to it as payday adjacent, or
I tried to make sure
you don't say the word payday.
that our viewers and listeners knew that payday actually was not included in this.
Yes,
though.
payday was in the look. You guys are the experts. I'm just here. So I think my description is correct. It is not payday loans in particular.
Right.
It is in the vicinity. It is adjacent. It is in the ballpark of not great financial products.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's fine.
So
But
with no further ado, let's let the expert
Andy,
take over.
Let's hear about it.
Oh,
1547.
Yes.
What was this legislation? What happened this week? Where does it stand? What's next? Let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk it out.
Yeah. So
It's a long journey.
it is a long journey. So I think first to how we get to these type of loans. So if you're a consumer who has, let's just say, good credit, we won't get into credit scores and all of that. But if you're a consumer who has good credit, kind of conventional credit, you're going to maybe where you bank or where you go to your credit union. Or maybe if you were going to a car dealership, you could use the in-house financing there.
Yes.
We kind of call that prime credit. That's where you're a prime borrower, you're deemed less risky by some kind of measure, and you're using those products. And just to back up, there's a difference between the unbanked and the underbanked. So the unbanked are those who don't have a checking account. The underbanked are those who may have a checking account, but don't have access to conventional credit. So all those things I just said. So if you don't have that, then you're in the subprime lending market or alternative financial services. We kind of use that interchangeably. And in Indiana, we have really two chapters, two types of products that govern the subprime space. You have payday lending, which is a Chapter 7 product. And then you have Chapter 3, which is basically everything else. So for these products, really, they are, you think about buy here, pay here, auto lending. There are some other financial institutions that offer these kind of products that are more expensive. And once those financial products are at the cost of a 25% rate, and back me up if I'm going too fast.
No. Yeah, I appreciate this. This is a lot.
Basically, once you get to basically an interest rate, of 25%, and you go over that. You go from a consumer loan below 25%. When we go over 25% under current law, it becomes a supervised loan.
Yes.
So a lot of names, a lot of language here. So we are subprime alternative financial services, not payday adjacent under the code.
Not payday.
Yeah. But then we're
payday.
Over 25% now.
Yeah.
So we're really deep. We're deep in here. As you can see, folks, it gets complicated really quick. So 25% is that threshold. So 1547, what it does is to make it easy, it came in and it takes that 25% and it raises it to 36. And the impact of that is, for example, on a 5-year car loan at $20,000, a consumer would pay an additional $8,000 under this bill.
Whew.
And it would just raise it. And then, the industry has made some arguments that they need these increased rates in order to provide credit to these subprime borrowers. And I think there is some disagreement about what that really looks like. But really, this just raises the cost of credit during a time that I think everyone's kind of feeling the impact of rising prices. We're going through an economic situation and raising interest rates right now, especially for those who this is their only access to credit. So over the past few weeks, we've been meeting with a lot of committee members.
Yes.
Through our third coalition. We're kind of doing all three coalitions.
I know. This is what I loved about this today.
Yeah. Hoosiers for Responsible Lending. So we have been working with committee members and educating them, pre and post our testimony last week about the concerns we had with this bill. And just this morning, again, it's Thursday.
This Thursday.
I know.
Thursday morning.
The hearing was called down just 28 minutes before it was scheduled. So the bill will not be heard in House committee right now. So.
And Andy,
what I missed.
No, that was great.
Yeah.
I would say that it has been, so last Thursday was when this bill was given its first hearing, and it was only testimony.
Yeah.
That's when Andy testified. We were all there that morning. And prior to that was when we had been meeting with the chair of the committee, as well as the author of the bill, which is Representative Judy, and then just some other folks that were involved in it. Moving forward to this week, we continue to meet with committee members, as Andy mentioned, and staying in complete contact with the chairman, who we will give a very big shout out to, Representative Speedy, for being transparent and working with us, and always, just leaving that conversation open for anything that we wanted to share back and forth. And I would say, I think, Andy, one of the things that I didn't hear you talk about that I think you testified on in this bill, I think the lenders would say that this product that they were trying to create would allow people to gain credit.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up, because we hear all the time, right? So again, we are in prime, subprime. We're down here. We're kind of in the double subprime, if you will. And, we recognize that conventional lending won't provide to a certain population, and that this is the product. But we hope that we can be moving individuals along the spectrum so that they don't have to pay so much for credit.
Mm-hmm.
But the only way that you can get there is by being able to build
Your
credit.
credit.
Is build credit. So when we, go back to that example, on my credit score, I get credit for the car payment. I get credit for the mortgage payment. For a lot of these products, they don't have to require it. So, sometimes you may hear that there's this federal law called the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's called FCRA. And it sometimes is quoted as requiring that lenders report payments, report the credit to the credit bureaus. And when we say credit bureaus, it's the big three, right? TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, that those have to be reported. That's not true. What FCRA does is FCRA says, if you as a lender choose to report or are required to, there are rules that you have to follow. Like if I think that you messed up my name, you have to actually pay attention to me saying, I think you've messed my name up. Or I did make that payment on time. And you have to pay attention to the fact that I am disputing your reporting. It is not a requirement to lenders, on lenders to report those payments. So when we talk about any financial product, they need to be reported to credit bureaus because it's the only way for consumers to get credit for it.
Right.
Yeah. And then so that information is also then reported correctly.
And this bill did not require that reporting.
It did not. It did not. So there were two pieces that some proponents of the bill said it did, which was credit reporting, which we just outlined, and the other was that these are unsecured loans. So it is true that this bill would have prevented a lender from securing the loan against your house, for example, but it did nothing to say that it couldn't be secured through an auto loan. Right. And so that's really where we, I think, even had some more heartburn, was the idea of, while lenders right now may not be providing a 60-month secured car loan, it is possible that they could go up to 36%. And that's extremely problematic. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, because that was something that I wanted to make sure we discussed as well. And, we have been sort of trying to discuss this. I would not even say compromise, but I would say just being at the table to try to see, because we do understand that there is sort of a, I don't even want to say market, but the availability that individuals might need this type of a loan at some point to try to build their credit, because they can't get conventional loans like that. But while we've tried to discuss that, this bill also did not have any cap on the amount, right?
No cap on the amount.
And then what was the other one that it didn't have?
It didn't have a term.
Yes.
So when I say 60-month loan, that would be permissible, right? These aren't just, let's say, a $3,000 2-year loan, right? It was that it could be for any size of a loan over any amount of time. And at 36%, if you take a loan over 5 years, the first 3 years, you're probably paying nothing in terms of the actual loan off. There's like no principal payment there. If you have a mortgage or have gone through a mortgage process, look at your mortgage closing documents. It works very similarly, but this is, again, just a completely different product, and just it's not the same thing.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I knew that was something else, because we did try to talk about, like, could you cap it at a certain amount? Like, trying to really work with how, like, trying to really get at what the amount is needed for consumers right now. Like, what are we really looking at? Where is the gap? Because we don't really believe that there is currently necessarily this broad of a gap for.
And as we outlined before, this bill didn't permit these loans to be made. Current law allows them to be made. It's just not at 36%.
Right.
It was at 25% or
That's
kind of this blended rate. So it's not as if lenders couldn't already do this. They just couldn't do it at the rates that seemed worth providing to. So, but Indiana is unique, and it's a lot of ways, but it's consumer finance laws. And to Amber's point, like we need to be looking at it holistically and figuring out how those who are being served by subprime credit, being served in the alternative financial service sector, can move into more affordable credit.
Yep.
Yeah, we should all be working toward that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think from our perspective, I know you might be getting ready to say this, but from an ARP Indiana perspective, we look at this from the fact that we encourage and hope that people can look at financial security or looking towards retirement and saving for that. Individuals that are the 50 plus population don't always have income that is flexible. And this can really get individuals in a cycle of debt.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I agree.
do you have anything to add?
I don't. This is what happens when you know that you should just not out of my depth.
Well,
We can just say that based off of my payday adjacent comment about how much I know what's going on.
I did want everyone to realize, though, what was discussed today and what I said last week.
They're the same.
Oh, they're not the same. But we are so happy that Andy could be here to explain this today. And just as a reminder, because as you know, Andy did already mention this, but I just want to say the committee hearing was supposed to be today. It was on the schedule all the way up until, I want to say, this morning. 8:02. And
somebody was refreshing that browser.
And it started, and it was supposed to start at 8:30 for that bill, for House Bill 1547 to have an amendment vote is what the calendar originally said. And it was canceled. So we are not out of the woods yet, though. Just remember, folks, the deadlines are next week for committee hearings. I always am going to get this wrong. I think it's Tuesday for the House and Thursday for the Senate, or Monday for, okay, great. So there is still time. And so we never want to, it's not over till it's over. And then also, I always like to remind people that even if the committee deadline happens, the bill itself dies, but the topic may not. And so there can always be an opportunity for folks to be trying to squeeze it in other places where it may not belong. So we always like to keep an eye out on those things too.
It's never over.
No.
Nope. Not until they say sine die at the end of the session.
Right.
And then the work also continues because they'll just try again.
Yes.
Because I feel like we talk about this kind of stuff a lot.
Well, I think through our conversations, and I don't want to belabor this point of this bill, but I will say, Andy, you might want to chime in here. I feel like throughout, especially this time, it became very clear that we're willing to come to the table. And same with all of the other folks that were involved in this conversation. I think it just shows that, maybe even further down the road after session, we might still have to have some of these conversations and really look at what's going on, what's happening. Oh, and if you don't mind, I don't want to put you on the spot, I did forget, individuals in our Hoosiers for Responsible Lending Coalition, Marie testified.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit, just quickly, about how there are some organizations that are currently trying to provide loans in this space? And I totally forgot to bring that up.
That's great. So, Marie Morse from Homestead CS in Lafayette. They are a housing counseling agency, HUD certified housing counselors. Homestead is a community loan center.
Yes.
So we have one of those at Brightpoint. Brightpoint is a community action agency, so a member of Indiana Community Action Association.
And Steve Hoffman.
Yes. And then our Northwest Indiana Community Action is another CLC. So the community loan center model is we have CLCs regionally positioned. We're trying to, there's Prosperity Indiana is doing a lot of great work with trying to make this a statewide model. But what they do is they work with employers. The community loan center works with employers to provide small dollar loans as a benefit to employees. And what's really great about it is, so it's up to $1,000 for 12 months at the all-in kind of rate of 22%.
Yep.
And the loan defaults are less than what some of these lenders are charging for their loans. And I think what a really important distinction of this too is that the community loan center isn't on the hook if or the isn't on the employer isn't on the hook if they default.
Right.
And so what's really important about that is that we are showing that the loan portfolios can work. And at Brightpoint, I'm just going to speak for Steve, like he's been able to continue to grow his portfolio because it's actually working.
Yep.
The idea that those who may not have access to conventional credit, when they are on affordable terms, meaning pricing, length of the loan, etc., that they actually are repaying their loans, and it builds credit.
I was just going to say, I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
you made that point. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping that sort of what we're trying to do too do a better job of, I guess, is maybe we can bring Steve and Marie on at some point after session to kind of really talk about what they do. Because I think it is a great opportunity for just anyone to learn about what exists out there besides maybe something like this.
And so they're doing great work
Great
in their
work.
communities and
Yes.
getting employers involved with that, because it is an important benefit
Absolutely.
to employees. And I think it also is a really clear example of, if we can create products that provide consumers a real opportunity to repay the loans,
Yes.
to repay their credit, that folks are going to be to
and build that credit so that
Yeah.
eventually they can go out
Yeah.
and get a conventional
right.
loan if they need it.
Yeah.
So that is the whole point, is sort of trying to get individuals to get to that place
Yes,
if they need to.
absolutely.
So, okay, sorry. I think I know I've been taking up so much time, but I keep thinking of things to say or to ask before we let this expert go, because I just want to keep him here.
Yeah. This is going to turn into more people pretty soon. It's going to be like a roundtable discussion.
I was
which
going
I'm
to say,
up for,
we need
you
a
know?
bigger table.
We do need a bigger table. This is it's a little awkward. So all right,
Yes.
I can't say it enough. Great work, both of you, on this. Obviously, we'll keep at it going forward in session, and we'll see what shakes out, because the deadlines for committee
Yes.
is approaching. I guess, is that next week?
Mm-hmm.
Committee deadlines next week, and then it'll be second reading deadline, third reading deadline, and then we'll get the halfway point, and then we'll start up this whole thing all over again, just on same bills, different sides.
That just gave me a lot of anxiety. Thank you.
Well, anxiety for you,
Andy.
anxiety for you. I feel kind of sick about it too. Either way, we'll work our way through it.
Yes.
Well, Andy, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I
really
thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, and for the partnership with AA. I mean, it's incredible. I know you have a lot of viewers here, but we so appreciate your partnership and how we are able to really advocate for Hoosiers every single day at the State House, because of our coalitions, but also just because of the great work that you two do as well. So thank you all very much for having me.
Very nice of you to say that.
I know, because I feel the same way.
Yeah, it's just a lot of good work happening at the State House, even though
Yes.
sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it always, but it's happening.
Well said.
A lot of good people doing good work. So we appreciate you, Amber.
Yes.
Anything else?
I think this was fantastic.
This is
I don't
great.
have anything else.
No.
I know I normally do.
I know.
I
This is
don't.
fantastic. This is a rarity in this show. Feels great. Feels great. Well, Andy, thank you again. Amber,
Yes.
thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for watching. We will see you next time on The Legislative Director, talking about legislative things. Take care.